What's up, everyone? This is Screenman21 or ifailatgames, and this is the story of Richard Snailington III. As you see, Richard Snailington III is a runner, but that's not the end of this story. It's a very, very significant backstory to his to where he is now. Richard Snailington III was born in about 1989, so that would make him roughly about 24, I guess. I don't really know. That's not the important thing. When Richard Snailington was born, his parents abandoned him in the woods because they weren't ready to be parents. They were just babies themselves. They were literally babies, guys. They were about 3 years old. Don't ask me how that's possible. I don't know. Anyway, Richard got very lucky that day because Richard was found by a clan of snails. They took Richard in as their own. They made Richard part of their clan. Richard Snailington's the third father, Richard Snailington II, took him in and he loved his son. He taught him everything that he knew. As you see, Richard Snailington III had a passion. He had a passion for running. He wanted to be the greatest runner of all time. He wanted to be in the Olympics. He wanted to make it to the big leagues. He told his father about this every day, and him and his father worked very passionately to make Richard Snailington III the greatest runner that anyone had ever seen. His father taught Richard Snailington III. He taught Richard Snailington III his famous snail maneuver. As you see, the snail maneuver is the most inefficient and shitty way to run that I have ever seen in my life. Just look at that form. It is horrendous. But no, that never stopped Richard Snailington. He always kept practicing the snail maneuver to perfect his craft. Richard Snailington III was always teased in school. They always called him Slowpoke and asked him, did his knees hurt? He was always puzzled why they would ask such cruel questions, even though it was a bloody pile of ligaments and other things every time that he ran. It always hurt his feelings. But one day, his father said something that stuck with Richard forever. He said, "Son, that bloody pile of shit behind you isn't blood, son. That's called pride." And yes, that stuck with Richard for the rest of his life. And he always thought of that before he laced on his shoes, which he didn't use to run when he ran. As the story progressed, Richard got older and he kept practicing. At this point, his knees was as rugged as a rhinoceros skin, and he was ready to race with the best of them, even though he was extremely shitty. One day, his luck got a little better. It was 12th grade to be exact. After 3 years of failed attempts at joining the track team, he decided to try out once again. And once again, he failed horrendously. It took him about an hour and 30 minutes to get past the 17-meter dash. I know what you guys are thinking. There's no such thing as a 17-meter dash, Scream Man. His coach made it up to make Richard feel better. Although Richard didn't make it into the track team for the 4th year straight, he did manage to make it as a water boy this time, which was great for Richard. And I'm here to tell you that he was terrible at that too. He was horrible. It took him about 5 minutes on average to get the water to all the track members, even if they were about 5 feet away from him. He was just horrible. But no, that never stopped Richard. He kept sliding or running or whatever you call this abomination of a maneuver that he called the snail maneuver. He kept practicing that shitty excuse for movement, and he kept trying to perfect his craft. And one day he got his big shot. It was the biggest track meet of the season. if they placed first in about 3 events, they would make it to state. But something tragic happened to all the other members of the track team. They got a huge case of explosive diarrhea and they couldn't run. So his coach had to make an extremely rash decision that haunted him for the rest of his life. He said, "Richard, it's your time. I'm going to let you run, boy. You get out there and you drag. And you drag like you've never dragged before. You drag like RuPaul. You drag like Fast and Furious." Anyway, Richard listened to his coach and he became euphoric. This was his big chance to prove everybody wrong, to prove everybody that he could become an Olympic runner one day. So Richard began to line up at the plate, or the starting line, if you will. It took him about 5 minutes to get there, but that was okay. That didn't plague Richard. He didn't let that get him down. As that gun sounded, Richard sounded also. He dragged himself like he never dragged before. He skidded across that track like a beautiful work of art. It was like a collage of red everywhere. I'm here to tell you guys that something remarkable happened that day. Even though Richard didn't finish the race and he had to be carted off by the paramedics because he scraped his knee so bad by running so vigorously, that's not the point of this story, guys. The crowd gave Richard an amazing standing ovation. Yes, a standing ovation. They applauded him for even trying to run with that sad excuse for a maneuver. A lot of them was confused on why he would even embarrass himself and risk losing his knees forever just for ego's sake. But you know what it was, guys? It was Richard's will to keep moving on and never give up. As Richard laid in the hospital bed with his knees strapped to ice packs, his coach came and visited him and said, "Boy, you inspired us. You inspired us all." Richard even had a hallway in his school named after him. And every time you got on that hall, you couldn't walk. You had to drag yourself to class. It was pretty inefficient because people was late all the time and they had to get admitted to class, but that's not the point. The point is to never give up on your dreams. And I'm here to tell you, to this day, Richard is still practicing to become an Olympic runner. And that's the video footage that you're watching right now, guys. Look at that. He's got that shitty maneuver to a T. He's perfected his craft. Never give up on your dreams, guys. I hope you guys liked this video. It's just a short narration that I decided to do for you guys, a little something different. If you can give this video a like, that would be great. If you could subscribe and become a Smarty Pants member, that would be even better. If not, it's cool. You're still beautiful. I'll give you a kiss. Here you go. But if you like and subscribe, you're the most beautiful person that I know. All right, guys. Larry is over there cracking up. He thinks the story is hilarious. He helped me write it. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap this video up. And Richard for the win. You should tweet that today. All right. Peace out, everybody. I love you guys. Mwah, mwah.